teams. And in high school, you want to be on winning teams. And so, learning how to collaborate and get consensus is a huge part of leadership. Was that helpful?
Yeah. And then how did you earn the respect of your teammates?
How did I earn the respect of my teammates? I just came in every day, and I wish, I'll be honest with you all, I wish I was a better leader in college. I was very focused on, like, I had tunnel vision. I was like, I'm going to WNBA. Everybody else stay out of my way. Just don't even talk to me. Do your job, rebound the ball. I was like, I know what I want to do, and I don't want to get distracted. So I had tunnel vision. And so I wish I would have been a better leader in college. I really do. But my teammates respected me because I worked. Like, I was in the gym 30 minutes before practice started, before the warm-up started. Because in college, you got to be at practice 20 minutes before practice starts, because that's being on time. Like, being on time in practice is not showing up 1 minute before it starts. Being on time to practice is being there 20 minutes before it starts. So I was at practice 30 minutes before the 20 minutes and getting my shots up. And if I had a bad practice, I was there another 30 to 45 minutes after practice getting more shots up. I was constantly working on my game, constantly. And nobody worked harder than me in practice. I refused to have anybody outwork me in practice. I finished first in every sprint. If we had to get a mile time, I was going to die getting past that line, but I was going to have the best time. It didn't matter what it was. I was going to pass out on the floor. I was going to give the game everything I had until somebody else was better than me or worked harder than me. And my teammates respected that. So, leading by example is one part, but you got to have a lot of other parts. So I was not a perfect leader in college, but I definitely knew how to earn their respect in that aspect. I worked very, very hard, and I expected them to follow suit. And sometimes it doesn't work like that, and you'll learn that. But definitely my work ethic inspired a lot of my teammates. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Okay.
You said that, like, around your junior, sophomore year, right, you started to get fire, work harder. What made that fire start? Like, what made you finally decide, like, all right, I'm gonna be the best?
A couple things. Again, I had some really good people around me. And so because of that, they were always very honest with me. And so they had no issue with telling me things like, you're not very good. You need to be better. You've underachieved. I know you think you're good, but guess what? Texas A&M beat us by 50 this year. So obviously you suck. So little things like that are helpful, having people who are very honest with you. And then, it was interesting because my sophomore year at San Diego State, my freshman year, I was all Pac-10. My sophomore year, I was newcomer of the year. So it wasn't like I was just terrible. I wasn't hiding on the bench or anything like that. But I thought I was good. I was like, I'm good. I'm doing everything I can. I came from Arizona. I was all, when I was all Pac-10, I think what ruined it for me early was when I was all Pac-10. It was called the Pac-10 at the time, by the way, y'all. It was not the Pac-12. I was all Pac-10 freshman with Aneka Gumake, like 3 girls who went to the WNBA. So when I had become all Pac-10, I kind of went to San Diego State thinking that I was something. And then I got there and I got another award. So, I found success early. I wasn't unsuccessful, but I actually thought I was good. And I had a coach one day who was talking to me like, so what are you going to do this summer to get better? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I just scored 30 in a game. What do you mean? Why aren't you asking the other players what? And she just was like, and I'm sorry, but she said, you ain't shit. Like, you won newcomer of the year, but nobody cares. Like, nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares about you. She was just like, I don't understand. And that, like, really hurt my feelings. And I started thinking about it. And, I was just kind of thinking through, like, wow, I guess I'm really not anybody. And just kind of started following NCAA, saw who won. I was like, wow. And that year we played Texas A&M. They almost scored 100 on us, and then they won the national championship. So I was like, well, at least we got, run by the national champions. But I didn't play very well in that game, and I was just kind of thinking about the season. I was like, you know what? I'm actually not that good. I'm actually not very good. And so I got to work. Obviously, a couple of other things happened. I had heard some stories about other players. I had got some good advice from other people, but I just realized that I actually wasn't as good as I thought, and I needed to work a lot harder, and I wanted to win. And that was the biggest difference as well, is that I wanted to win. And we hadn't really won that year, and I knew I needed to be better in order for us to win. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
I have another question, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So the transition from high school to college, was it difficult, and how did you adjust to it? And also, what was your daily schedule compared from high school and then college and then WNBA, the daily schedule and how hard you worked? You know what I mean?
Okay, the transition from high school to college, it was a lot, but people love to tell us athletes, that transition from senior year to freshman year is so much. But really, in the large scheme of life, and now that I'm living in the real world, I'm not an athlete anymore. It is difficult, but at the same time, it's not. You can make it work. People plan your schedule for you. People plan your what is it called? Study hall for you. They do your schedule for you. They tell you when to be places, what time to be there. They print it out for you. So is it a difficult transition? Yes, because there's a lot of things going on, a lot of new, there's a lot of new things going on in your life. It's not that hard. If you're on a scholarship to a school, it's not that hard. And so I'm not going to sit here and be like, it's so hard. It's not. You can make it work. We can all make it work. You have a scholarship somewhere. They've done your whole class schedule for you. They've set your study hall up for you. They've set your meal times up for you. And now in college, it's a lot better now where they do dinner at night every night. I don't even know. It's crazy. But it is hard, but then it's also not. It's what you make it. If you want to step in and say, hey, this is hard, then it's going to be hard. If you step into it with the right mindset, there's a lot of things have been set up for me, and I don't anticipate it to be easy, but I'm going to make the most of it, and I'm going to do everything I can with this opportunity, then you won't see it as hard. So it's not that hard. And then the transition to the WNBA and my scheduling college was pretty busy. From classes to practices to weightlifting to attempting to, do things outside of school and basketball. It's pretty busy, but it ebbs and flows. You have times where you're really, really, really busy, and then you have times where you're not very busy. So it all balances out. I'll tell you, my least busy time was when I was in the WNBA. I was always trying to find something to do. You're a professional basketball player and you don't have school. You're getting paid to practice and then go play in a game for an hour. So the schedule in the WNBA wasn't crazy. It was actually, I found myself quite bored a lot. So I had to work out. I would just go lift extra or do other things. We traveled a lot, that part was crazy. Sometimes we would play, and that night after playing, we'd hop on a plane and fly to another state. That part was a lot. Overall, though, the schedule for the WNBA wasn't that bad. College is a busy time, and you do have to learn how to prioritize and organize your time, and really get good with creating schedules and being on time to places, and you all have all the access in the world to calendars. I got 3 calendars in my phone, and one of them I don't even use because I didn't even download it. Apple just puts it on my phone automatically. So there's no reason for you to not be organized. If I had to tell you one thing, though, learn how to get organized now. Don't wait. Learn how to automatically, when someone sets a date with you, put it in your phone right away. Put the time, the date, learn how to just immediately put things on your calendar, write them down, and be organized, because that is a skill set, I'll tell you. And if you can pick that up early, you will be successful later on in life, and especially in college.
Thank you so much.
Great questions. These are great. Anybody else? Come on, y'all gotta ask. You gotta ask. Don't be scared.
So what's one tip you have for high school players going through the college recruiting process, or like important questions we should ask college coaches?
Okay, important questions. So if you're going through the recruiting process, everybody's recruiting process is different. So my process, your process, and then everybody else's process is different. So the general advice I can give you is, when you're looking at a school, pay attention to, and this is, this depends on your options, but look at the style of play. One thing I did not do when nobody ever told me like, hey, does that fit with your style of play? This depends on your options as well, but for me, I never looked at style of play. I just was like, I like this school. I think I'm going to play a lot, so I went there. But sometimes you should pay attention to the style of play. And try to figure out, do you fit into that? Can you make yourself fit into that? If you're in a situation where you're limited on your options for schools, then you make yourself fit into that style of play. You observe and you say, you know what, this is my only option. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to adjust my game to fit their offense or their defense. If you have options, then you can pick and choose, like, I think this school fits my style of play better. So that's one thing. When talking to coaches, I think you want to interview coaches the same way they interview you. So, what are they looking for in players? What's their, I go all the way in sometimes. What's your leadership philosophy? How would you describe your culture? What's your team's identity? Like the team, what's their identity? Leadership questions, culture questions, and then what they see in you. How do you see me fitting into your team? What do you expect from me my freshman year? What is something that, you think I can bring to the team right away as a freshman? Even if it's not scoring, what else can I bring? So just interview them the same way you're interviewing me, and allow them to kind of provide those answers for you. And then it'll impress coaches, because kids are sometimes bashful, like you all are, and don't ask enough questions. But if you ask a coach those types of questions, they'll be very impressed with you. And so don't be afraid to ask those questions, and definitely have a list of questions ready. Again, if I could do things all over again, I would have had a list of questions. I didn't. So, I kind of just hopped on the phone with coaches. They asked me questions. I was fortunate enough to where they still recruited me. But, if I was a coach now, I would want to be engaged with the kid who's asking me some questions, who wants to come and bring something to the table for my team. So those are just some questions: leadership, culture, style of play, things like that. Anything else?
Great question.
What was one of your weaknesses and how did you overcome it?
One of my weaknesses, basketball weakness, like skill-wise or character-wise?
Yeah, but like skill-wise.
Skill-wise, I never really invested that much time in dribbling, because I didn't need to. I just was under the mindset that I was going to shoot it. I was like, when I get the ball, I'm going to score. So I don't need to take that many dribbles. I was very efficient scorer. I didn't need to do all the extra moves, and, I just didn't do that. I got it, and I was very old school, shot fake, one dribble pull up, catch and shoot three. I would drive to the basket, and I had some moves, but I was a very efficient player. So that was probably my biggest weakness, was ball handling. But even then, I think if you have confidence in yourself, you don't have to be the best ball handler to score. And even my senior year, I ended up having to play point guard a couple of times. and I was okay. I was able to handle it. So I think if I had to name one thing, it would be ball handling. I probably could have been a lot better ball handler. Also, I'm 6 feet, so that was not something that I had to do at the time, and I ended up being okay. But if I had to go back and do one thing better, it would have been ball handling.
Thank you.
What did you major in college?
My major was in social science, and I will tell you all that I'm going back to school now and getting my MBA. So just to give you some frame of reference, I'm 30 now, and so I'm going back and I'm getting my MBA, which is a master's in business administration. And so if I had to do it all over again, and you didn't ask this, so I'm going to tell you anyways, but if I had to do it all over again, I would take advantage of my education more in college. And I definitely encourage you all, when you go to college, before you go to college, if you have an idea of what you want to major in, interview somebody who's working in that field. Find out if you actually want to do what you think you want to do. And if that's the career you want to go down, ask them what their major was. There's a lot of people who have a lot of different majors that are in the same field. Not everybody majored in the same thing. So find out 3 different majors that you could potentially get in college that would allow you to be in the career that you want. There's not, there's a lot of options when it comes to what you can get your bachelor's in. I wish I would have gotten my bachelor's in something else, but unless you're going to be a lawyer and a doctor, I encourage you all to, interview people, talk to people, find out what they've gotten their bachelor's in or even master's in, so that it gives you a better compass once you get to college. I didn't do that, and I didn't have a good idea of what to major in. So I ended up majoring in social science, but I wish that I would have
Who's that? Is that your...
So, yes, social science. Anybody else?
I have one more question.
Okay.
What was your pregame warm-up to get you hyped up before like a big game? Or like what'd you do to settle your nerves if you were nervous? Like to hype yourself up, fired up?
I had the same routine every single game. It didn't matter if we played the worst team in the world or the best team in the world. A couple things for my routine. I would get to the gym. So it was a whole day thing. It wasn't like 30 minutes before the game. It was the way my entire day would go on game day. So usually if we were at home, I showed up to shoot around an hour early and shot for 30 minutes before we started shoot around, went back in the locker room, rested for 20 minutes, went back out. Shoot around would happen. I would eat. I would go home, stay off my feet. So I always stayed off my feet after we had our pregame meal. Never walk around at the mall. Never did any of that. Just laid down, watch TV. Most of the time, I would watch a game that I had played in previously, or I'd watch a game film of the team that we were getting ready to play. Home or away, I'd always watch game film before games. That allowed me to get a visual of what I was facing. Even if I played the team before, I would just watch the game that we played against them before, just to give myself a visual of what, where I would be getting my shots from, where, tendencies from the person I thought I was going to be guarding. So that was a everyday game day routine. When I got to the gym, I had a routine where anything I was thinking about that was non-basketball related, I would walk in the gym. Once I took my clothes off, like once I changed into my basketball uniform, every thought had to be towards the game. No outside thoughts. So the visual of taking those clothes off was me taking those thoughts and leaving them in my locker until after the game. So all my focus and thoughts were towards that game and everything I needed to do for that game. So I wouldn't allow my mind to wander off and think about anything that didn't have to do with that specific game that day. I wouldn't think back and I wouldn't think forward. So I was in the moment. I got taped by the same person. I'm a little bit of a freak when it comes to this, but I believe in this stuff. I'm same tape, same shoes, same.
Superstitious, huh?
It worked, but yeah, same tape, same shoes, same spandex. It was crazy. 15 minutes before the game started, I took the same Gatorade chews. They used to have this little carbohydrate pack. 15 minutes right on the dot, had to take my carbohydrate pack, and then, got to it. I'll tell you, I was nervous before every game. I never was not nervous, and I was always upset by that because I was like, why am I still nervous after all these games? I was nervous before every game. Right before the tip happened, I'd get butterflies. I don't know if that was nervousness or excitement because I loved the game and I really enjoyed the competition.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hopefully that helps.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Yes.
So you had a very good freshman year, your freshman year at Zona. Coming from high school, going into college, did it start off being nerves, or were you like, okay, I'm built for this. I'm ready for everything that comes at it as a freshman? Because some you go from playing in front of 100 people to 1,000 people. You know what I mean? And that can be that can be very overwhelming. How was it for you? Coming in, not playing in front of a whole lot, with the high school crowd, and then going to the college, and then with the, Coach Bombasini, who I do know. How was that adjustment for you?
The crowd never was an issue for me. I was always kind of weird because I preferred away games over home games because I was a player that loved a crowd that was yelling at me and talking crap because I was going to be that player that made a shot and pointed at somebody in the crowd. So that pressure, I thrived in that. And I don't know necessarily why. I think I had played in travel ball. I had played in a lot of high intensity, high pressure games. I had some very intense coaches. So for me, it's like, if you're focused and you're locked into what you're doing, the crowd, I'm worried about what my coach is saying. I don't care about what the crowd is saying. I just always had this laser focus. And so, nerves, yes, as a freshman, I had some bad games, but I also I was very prideful too, though. I never wanted to look bad in front of a bunch of people. So I was going to do everything I could to be successful. And so, aside from having some really good pregame routines, aside from being confident in myself, also, really worked. So for my freshman year, right away, I was going in extra, working on my game every night after practice, shooting. I had a whole routine. Aside from that, I couldn't really tell you, I guess, why I was able to find that success my freshman year, but I never saw myself not being successful. That was not an option for me.
And you said, you big time Kobe fan. Kobe had one thing I know, Kobe had a bucket list. And it started when he first got to the NBA, and the general manager from Charlotte said, "We don't need you." That was Kobe's first bucket list. Did you have one?
I did, because I didn't get recruited by USC. I didn't get recruited by UCLA, which was my home schools, supposedly. So I didn't get recruited by USC. I didn't get recruited by UCLA. I didn't want to get recruited by Stanford, but I didn't get recruited by Stanford. So I think getting the opportunity, the reason why I went to the Pac-10 was because I wanted to make those teams pay for not recruiting me. Mm-hmm. And it was really weird because I was like, why am I getting recruited by Louisville and LSU I'm not getting recruited by UCLA and USC. So that actually, I'm glad you brought that up. But yes, I had that list. I was going after USC. I was going after UCLA. I was going after those schools who I felt like, did me wrong as a young 18-year-old. And so that helped a lot. That motivated me to play well, getting to play against those teams who I felt like, they overlooked me.
Yeah.
And I actually had a coach apologize to me one
They're
time
always nice when they come. They're like, okay.
for not recruiting me. So that was nice.
Did you have a individual hit list, like a target list? Like, again, Kobe wanted Jordan,
I had some of my team. So I played for a program called FBC. So they're still in Georgia, FBC Strong, they call themselves now. I played for FBC, though, when it was in Cali. It was an Adidas program.
They were, we were Adidas at the same time when we played them in Vegas. So you were light blue and blue.
Yeah, light blue and dark blue.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I had some teammates on that team that actually were McDonald's All-Americans, and I had some heavy hitters that I played with, and a lot of them went to UCLA and USC. So some of them were on my hit list for sure because, I was 18 and I felt I had been done wrong and was overlooked, and I wasn't overlooked at all. But, sometimes you got to create the motivation for yourself. And so I did. And I ended up doing very well against those teams all the time. Any other questions?
I have one. Do you think it's like worth the experience of playing in lower division? Like if you get recruited, but it's like let's say your goal is to go D1, but when the time comes, you've only been recruited by D2 and D3 schools. Do you think it's worth the experience of playing in lower division schools, even though it's not, the best, it's not the best of the best?
I have a lot of opinions about this. When you say the best of the best, I guess it would depend on what you want your experience to look like. If education is a priority for you and you don't plan on playing in the WNBA after college, then D2, D3 may be a pretty good option for you, especially because you might get the opportunity to play a lot more than if you were to go to a Division I. And, Division I is a huge commitment. It's a lot. You have to really be committed to basketball and love the game in order to be successful. And so, I think that everybody has this dream. Again, like I tell you all, you have this vision in your mind of how things are supposed to go. Some of the best players I know are actually Division II players. I know some phenomenal Division II players. And so I think that if you have an opportunity to go to a Division II and it's a better fit for you over a Division I, then at the end of the day, you have to decide what you really want. And it all has to do with the individual. What does the individual want? Education-wise, major-wise, playing time. Are you going to be able to go to Division I and play? Or are you going to have to ride the bench for 2 to 3 years? So you have to know what you want out of that experience. But I would never be, and obviously this is coming from someone who had a dream of going Division I, but now as an adult and as a leader of youth, I don't think that being dead set on Division I is always what's best for you all. If you have an opportunity to play Division II and it's a good opportunity, all things, there's a lot of aspects that go along with it with financial aid, and I understand that, but it just depends on what you want. And Division I is not always the best option for everybody. And that's okay. And it's okay because the span that your life is with basketball and your actual life, basketball is very short. And life is much longer. And so you have to think about things in the big picture. And so if you're not trying to play in the WNBA, then there's nothing wrong with maybe not going Division I. That's it. All done.
That's it, ladies. Is that it, ladies?
Yeah, I think so.
Nope. Well, Courtney, I know you wanted to close out, but let me first say, on behalf of myself and coaches and all of our players, you're inspiring and we thank you. And this is probably the most engaged. We've done this a few times, and this is probably the most engaged and the longest call that we've had. So that speaks to your story, one, but really, who you are as a person. It really comes out. And then it's I got kind of lost in it too. So but just appreciate you and your time. And this has been something that we won't forget. And I think these girls are going to remember it for a very long time. So I appreciate you.
Good. And really the girls asked so many good questions. I wasn't going to close with what I usually close with, because we covered leadership, we covered education. Some of you ladies showed a lot of courage by asking questions. It's already awkward in person. I can only imagine how much more awkward it is on Zoom, because, it's just less personable. So for the girls to ask questions, you should be proud of yourself. You showed a lot of courage. And for the girls who didn't, if you have a question and you don't have the courage right now to ask it, feel free to I'm going to give your Coach Vanessa, my email, and feel free to email me and ask questions. Please do not shy away from asking people questions ever. But I understand if this is not the way you want to ask it. If you have a question, please just ask Coach Vanessa for my email, and you can email me and ask it. I always tell my players that they have to find a way to contribute to conversations and make themselves relevant. So anytime somebody's asking questions, they have made themselves relevant. And again, you never know where I'm going to be or where you're going to be in a couple years. And so I'll remember Emily because of the amount of questions that she asked me. And, there's some of you that I've not, you didn't ask any questions. So I won't recognize you. I won't remember you because you didn't make yourself relevant. You didn't make yourself stand out. That goes for the same in the game. You got to find a way to make yourself relevant. And, I'm not trying to be too harsh, but I'm just saying that you all have to figure out how to make yourself stand out sometimes. And you just never know when you're going to run across somebody and how they're going to remember you. And so just be mindful of that. When you move forward into these other interviews and you meet people, if you ask questions, you make yourself stand out, they'll always remember you. And you never know, they might want to give you a job one day. They might want to recruit you one day. And so make yourself relevant. Find a way to make yourself relevant always, whether it's on Zoom, in a game, in a meeting room, make yourself relevant. And that's all I got for y'all. But thank you so much for having me here. Very grateful to be able to connect with you all and empower you all. I hope you learned something from me. I hope that you all get to play this summer. We don't know. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that. But I hope to cross paths with you all. And if you see me and you didn't ask me a question, or if you see me and you did ask me a question, but you wanted another one and you see me in passing sometime in the future, don't be afraid to come up to me and I will definitely connect with y'all.
Really appreciate it. Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, that's definitely one of the best ones, I would say. Wow, to go from Kobe to her, that wasn't even a drop off. That was pretty amazing. And she just touched on so many points, and I hope you guys got something out of it. What I'm doing differently now when we're having these speakers, and we have a lot of speakers lined up for the month of May, I'm recording them. So it didn't record, it kicked me off, but I think we got at least the tail end of it. So I'll follow up with her email address, and then I'll follow up with the recording, so maybe you guys can listen to it again. But I thought it was real inspiring, and I hope you guys got something out of it. Coaches?
Nope, I'm good. That was good. That was good.
That was
awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay. All right, guys. Keep working. Stay focused. Clean your room. I don't know how to add that. But
Yeah.
have a good night, ladies, and we'll catch up on Thursday, and I'll be on Facebook tomorrow. All right. Take care, guys.
Coach. Good
See y'all
night.
later.
Thank you.
Bye, Charity.
Yes.
All right, man. See you later.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Bye. I'm trying to figure out how to stop this recording.